Final solutions to money, relationships, wellness, and more. Shine a light onto your day and into your life. Power Your Life with Dr. Joanne White.
Good evening and welcome to Power Your Life. I'm your host, Joanne White, and on today's program we're tackling some inspiring topics: career success, health and wellness, and a new spin on parenting. My first guest is Joe Schreiber. Joe is a seasoned TV producer who was laid off after more than 2 decades of growing his career. He restarted his business, and now Joe's better than ever. Joe, I'm so glad to have you here today.
Privileged to be here. I love the energy that you bring, this calming energy.
Well, thank you. Let's get started because you know it goes so fast. So what happened? What were you doing before all this just ended?
Well, the story I like to share is, I had a blessed life. I had that sort of the dream job a guy would want. I worked for NBC for a program called the George Michael Sports Machine, produced the entire 23-year run, got to cover 23 Super Bowls, travel all around the country and the world, interviewing athletes to tell stories about people playing sports. So we were pioneers when we started in 1984, the precursor to ESPN, recognized for that. But by 2007, we were dinosaurs because we failed to embrace the digital age. So all of a sudden, I wake up, NBC has this policy called NBC 2.0, slash $750 million from the budget, 750 jobs. I read about it in USA Today. 2 weeks later, I found out one of those jobs that was being cut was mine.
So what did you do? What did you have to do to let your family know?
Well, it was interesting because I said, all right, I'm going to go home. I want to talk to them face to face. It's a tough thing. The kids had only known me being in one job at one time, seen all the benefits, went to all the games with me. All of a sudden I read on ESPN.com, it says, sports machine to power down. It's like, my kids are going to read it on the web if I don't call them. Call my son up. I said, Matt, great news for you. I'm going to spend a lot more time with you. He's about 16 at the time. He says, Dad, does that mean we can't go to Washington Wizards games anymore? Tell my daughter, she's 13, she says, Dad, does that mean you're going to work at the cleaners or 7-Eleven? Because that's all she knew. Kids were scared, family scared, and me inside, I was probably more scared than anybody.
Well, sure you're scared, but you have to do it anyway, right? So what did you need to do to reinvent yourself?
The biggest challenge was having some emotional intelligence. All right, you're feeling awful. All right, something bad has really happened. You have a choice. What meaning are you going to apply to what happened? So the meaning to me was we got left behind in business because we were not relevant anymore. So I vowed never to get left behind again, and I created a new mission. It was called a mission to blaze a trail for storytelling in the digital age. And the language you use to describe your mission is really important. Mission, blaze. Every day that I say that means that every day I'm fired up to go out there and change something in my life.
So it's the mission, the blaze, the action, like you said, because you just sat there, nothing would happen. And so look at you now. You have multiple businesses and a company that's even working with scientists. Tell us about what's going on.
Well, what I did was I took stock of what the value was of what I did in the past. And that's a hard thing to do because you have to look at what you did and what the real value was. I had to throw a lot of it away. A lot of the stuff that I was really good at and valuable was only good for the host of the show I had, George Michael, who has since passed away, and a show that was going off the air. So what was left? Ability to tell stories. What can I do with that in this day and age? Hey, we live in the best age right now. It's the age of empowerment. If you can broadcast your story, you can do it for free with social media. You can leverage all these new technologies with video and so forth. So I wanted to become in the forefront of that. And if you can do that, all of a sudden you're creating value for so many different companies, people, television networks, universities. That's what I do these days.
So what aspect of it do you love the best?
Empowering somebody else, whether it's a scientist who finally understands how to signal the value of the brilliant work they do, or to have a university share an authentic story about what their athletic team is trying to do, and share that story as it's unfolding and unscripted in a way that's not propaganda.
What would you tell people who are needing to do that in 2014? Just reinvent themselves, figure out what they need to do to start a new life?
Best piece of advice I can give anyone is to think of yourself as a brand. It's kind of radical for some people. I remember we had a general manager at NBC who said, all of you need to think about your personal brand. And I'm thinking, that's ridiculous. We represent the NBC brand. Why? I can't think of that. It would be selfish. You know what? If you're going to move forward, you need to think about your personal brand. And a guy I work with, Dan Egan, has a great definition of brand. It's an implied promise.
Wow, I like that.
So what is your brand, and how do you want to communicate the value of that brand?
So Joe, in our last minute, what is your brand?
My brand is to be able to teach folks to communicate the stories about themselves or their business that communicates the value of what they do, and to be able to do that in this digital age.
I love it, and I love the passion that you have behind it. You're so excited about what you do. Do you ever look back?
Once in a while, but I look back fondly, and I think I try to say the same thing every day. I wake up saying I'm trying to fill a void of the things I did not accomplish in the past, and that's what keeps me moving forward.
I love that, filling a void. You've been wonderful, Joe, and I love the company and the success that you're bringing, not just to you, but to so many people. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Coming up on Power Your Life, learn about an organization that tosses cancer aside. It's called Have a Catch for Barb, a very inspiring story that can help millions of people. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Power Your Life. I'm your host, Joanne White. My next guest is Eric Shipon, the creator of Have a Catch for Barb, which is a national awareness campaign that brings families together and helps raise money for people dealing with cancer and with other illnesses. Eric, thanks for being with us today. Let's start with how this great organization got started.
Well, the great organization started because a great person passed away. My wife passed away in January of this year, and she was a 2-time cancer survivor. And in, I guess, January 2012, we were given 4 weeks to live. She squeezed that into another year. I have 2 daughters, and she said, I have to see my daughter go to prom, I have to see her graduate, I have to get her into college. Right. And she willed herself to live. And she was an unbelievable story. The irony of the charity is she would have hated to see her name out there publicly because she shied away from attention. And I worked in the entertainment business for 20 years, so she said, you take the attention. But no, she was just too good a person. And we did a lot of research. I did a lot of research on the simple concept of a catch. Having a catch, the give and take, doesn't cost anything. It doesn't matter what age you are. Kids do it with kids, with adults, with pets. It evokes great feelings. It's just one of those iconic times in your life that everyone seems to have a good feeling about having a catch.
Right. I remember telling you that story about having a catch with my cousin and how inspiring that was, because he was like an idol to me, and so we wanted to be like him. So we have these wonderful shirts, but what are you're doing so much for other people? Tell us some of the wonderful stories that you've been doing and what you've been doing that is creating so much meaning for people. You actually helped give Thanksgiving dinners.
Yeah, there's a great organization called the Breathing Room that they take care of families that are going through cancer with gifts, with meals. They came to us, which was very humbling because we were always the family that was used to giving, and when people gave to us, it was kind of life-altering. And they took care of our Thanksgiving dinner when my wife was not up to it. We were always that house. I have a very big family that hosted every holiday, and she hosted everybody. And after she passed, we went to that organization and said, you gave us Thanksgiving last year. Let's start with 4 families this year and give them Thanksgiving dinner. And at first it was, you just write a check. And that's what I wanted to do, just write a check, and they would go get dinners. They said, no, you're going to go, we're going to give you a shopping list, you're going to shop for every item, you're going to meet every family, and you're going to deliver their meals.
What was it like?
Humbling. It was, you don't realize the value of just listening to someone tell their story. And everything they told me I already lived through.
Right.
But to hear them and have them vent, it was really important to them. The food was great too, to have them, get a meal. But more importantly, they just wanted some normal discussion, not about necessarily their illness. And we were able to do that. And the one family, was degrees of illness.
Right.
One family I knew the husband was going to pass any day now, and the meal meant a ton, and the help meant a ton. But sitting down, she insisted we sit down and just talk for a half hour. Another family was a family younger than mine, and just to see a little girl at a kitchen table, coloring, saying, "Who's this man, Mommy?" And they brought us toys and dinner.
So did you cook the dinner too?
Oh, I don't cook, but no, we delivered the dinner, and that was a nice thing. And we've already had, it's not quite been a year since Barb passed away, but we've already had 4 fundraising events that we've put back into the community. Most recently, we were given a camp, Briarwood Day Camp, to have a Catch for Barb Day at the camp, where literally, lots of families had catches. Everything was donated: food, DJ, door prizes, and all good people. We were both big camp people and big family people, and we got 300 plus people to come out, on a Saturday afternoon a couple weeks ago. We did an event with the Philadelphia Soul, have a Catch for Barb Day at the Soul, where Ron Jaworski is a friend of ours. And he said, "You know what, Aaron? They're changing the footballs that the league uses this year. Let's take 1,000 of them and put the logo on it." The logo that's up on the screen, actually. And for people who come to the game early, I'll have a catch with them, and I'll sign the football, and they could leave with the football. It's a simple idea, but it went over really well. And we are now looking to replicate the idea with other sports and other teams. And the big idea in the spring is we'd like to create a combination of the old Hands Across America meets Alex's Lemonade, where on a designated day, a designated time, people will be invited to go out and have a catch for 10 minutes. Our only guarantee is that they're going to feel better, but hopefully the Jones family in Houston, the Smith family in Orlando will be doing it for a cause, a family that needs help in their community.
Thanks so much, Eric, and I think what you're doing is so wonderful, and Barb would be so proud. Thanks again for being here. And so much more ahead on Power Your Life. Up next, she's one funny mother. Comedian Dena Blizzard puts a very amusing spin on parenting, and you won't want to miss her. Welcome back to Power Your Life. My next guest is one funny mother. Dena Blizzard is a comedian who's been all over the entertainment world from coast to coast. To name a few, she's been Emeril Lagasse's and Paula Deen's warm-up comedian. And she's also hosted the TNT Red Carpet Arrival Show and Miss America pageant preliminary rounds. Dena recently launched her web series, One Funny Mother, which takes a hilarious spin on motherhood. Dena, we're so glad to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Joanne. This is so exciting.
Well, thank you. You've been around, so here's just one other show.
I am. Well, no, this is great, because if I wasn't here, I'd be doing laundry. So it's always exciting to not be doing that.
Better than laundry.
It is better than laundry.
Right. So, One Funny Mother, you launched it just recently, and tell us what you do. You write, you produce.
I do. So I
I
started doing stand-up about 11 years ago, and it was always about my kids. It was always at the end of the day when I had had enough of them, I'd go out and start doing stand-up. And I realized that all of the things that had happened to me that day were also happening to everybody else. And so when I would vent, you could see women in the audience saying, that's me, that's my life, that's my husband. And so we started to I did stand-up for many years, and we decided to get into vlogging, really, which is putting up video blogs about what your life is. So my kids are very involved in them, and they don't all love it, but we make them do it, and it's always a lot of fun. But it talks about those annoying things in your life. There's one video we have that's called Cups, and it was during the summer when I realized that I never have cups at my house. They're always dirty, because they will take a different cup out every single time they take a drink, and there's never anything for me to drink out of at the end of the day, and I'm just drinking out of like measuring cups. Like I just don't even care, and I just drink wine out of the bottle. I don't even care. But it's really those things that make you so crazy as a mom, and you think you're the only one. And so it was a really great way to just kind of make these little shorts and kind of make fun of it.
Well, I think what's so meaningful too is that, like you said, everybody's experiencing it, so it hits home. And there's something warm about it, and people can laugh at themselves. And like you said, it's not just me. Look, it's happening to her, and she's up there on stage.
It is. That's what's been really nice. I launched a one-woman show a few years ago, and it was really based on that concept that, we're all in the same boat together, and so much of it is a very shared experience about your life before kids and your life after kids. Everybody has those same feelings, and what has become of I can't even remember not having children. Like I feel like they've just always been there. I just didn't see them in my 20s. And now I see them, and they're everywhere. And so we launched the show, and we interviewed my girlfriends, and they all talked about what it was like for them. And what I learned from that was that there's so many stories to be told. And so recently we just started a new campaign called the One Funny Mother Project, and it's about women can go on our website, which is onefunnymother.com, and they can take a survey and talk about their stories and share their stories either through videos or through essays, and really have the opportunity to share them with other women that are having similar experiences. But it's always about finding the funny. It's always about finding those things that make you crazy. One of the things I realize as a mom that I do now is I lie all the time, and I think lying is wrong. I will say lying is wrong.
I hope you're not teaching that.
No, I'm not teaching it, but I realize is that, they ask me questions and I feel like I'm supposed to know the answers to things, but you don't. Just as a person, you don't know everything. And the other day, my daughter had said, "Mom, what are those blue lines on grandmom's legs called?" And I was like, this is so easy, gonna nail it. I was like, those are called varicose veins. And I thought I did a great job. And then she followed it up with, and she said, "Well, why are they there? Why would Jesus put them there?" And I was like, that's so you can find old people in the dark. They glow. And she was like, "What? Grandma glows in the dark?" And I was like, "Yes." And so now every time they're at my mom's house, they're turning the lights off and see if she glows. So
she believed it.
So they believe everything I say, which is why I'm a horrible mother. And so it's funny. It's those things that we do as moms to compensate, and they're not always right. We have mom fails all the time, but when you hear about another mom's mom fail story, you're like, okay, it's not just me. And so many women were writing to us after the show and saying, I feel so much more normal now. I feel like we hear great stories of women being so successful and being able to, balance work and family. And I feel like most women go home at the end of the day, though, feeling like a failure, feeling like it's so hard.
What's so important, though, is it's so wonderful to be able to look at the serious, because motherhood and parenting is hard work.
It is.
And to be able to look at that and step outside of it a little bit and find the humor in it, and then you're sharing it with so many people.
Exactly.
So what did one of those other people share with you? What was one of their stories?
One of my favorite stories is that there's a mom at my children's school, and she's just very perfect. Her hair is always done, and she just always like I showered today for this, but normally I don't look like this. And
not true.
But she always looks like this, and I always look at her and kind of thought, we really don't have anything in common. Like, she's not going crazy on her kids. She's not vacuuming and drinking vodka. Like, she's not that mom. And I saw her, and she had come to see the show. And afterwards, she said, I did the same thing. And I was like, no, you didn't. You're you and I'm me. We didn't do that. And she said she had her kids in the car and her girls weren't getting in their seats fast enough and buckling up. So she did that thing where she just decided she was going to put her car in reverse and kind of jostle them and be like, come on, we got to go. Well, instead, it was in drive, and she drove right through her garage door and busted her door. And then she had to call her husband and be like, listen, this was a good idea except for the reverse part. And so you have these moments where everything seems like such a great idea and it doesn't end up the way it's supposed to.
But that's part of life
It
too.
is.
And if you can laugh about it, you can move through all of those challenges and all of the hard work that motherhood has and go through it and with flying colors.
Exactly.
And share it. And you're doing such a great job sharing
Thank
it with
you.
other people.
Thanks.
So what have you gotten from this experience?
You know, I think that for me, when I first started doing stand-up, I was very young. I had 3 little kids, and my husband was in the military, and so he was gone. And for my mom would come over, and I would go to the local comedy club, and I would tell these stories. And I was telling them just as my own therapy, just kind of getting them off. This is what happened today. And it just felt so much more relatable to people in the sense that it was a shared experience and that it wasn't just me. So I really feel like even though people are laughing at the stories and I love that it's so therapeutic for them, I do feel like you're part of a community, which is really nice.
And it's therapeutic for you.
Yes.
Stay with us. Power Your Life. We'll be right back. Thanks so much. Dena, you have so much to offer people. What are you and your family getting from all this experience and from One Funny Mother?
You know, I think it's so nice to be able to connect with people about the things that kind of make us all crazy as moms. But also my kids, I'm having these videos, and we've gone back and watched some of the videos, and they were so young, and so it's kind of nice to have this little video diary of our life together and all the things I tortured them with, which I'm sure they'll show their therapist years to come.
And maybe not. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And also, laughing keeps you young.
Yes, I hope so.
Take a look at everybody. Take a look at her.
Right? Nice.
Yes, well, you know. So, Dena, thank you so much. You've been a
Thank you.
wonderful guest. And keep laughing, and keep us laughing. We need it. It's good for our
Thank you.
hearts and our souls. And folks, thank you so much for tuning in. And stay tuned next week to Power Your Life. Next week, we're going to hear about a man who quit his job to help the homeless running, and other stories here to come. Have a great night.